So guys, can you believe it? Another 3 years has passed and I've officially been living in Dubai for 6 years. I'm sure a lot of you guys who are watching this video watched the previous video I made 3 years ago where I reviewed my experience living in Dubai, or at least the first 3 years of me living in Dubai. Well, another 3 years has passed and I did contemplate whether or not I should make another video, and even if another video was needed, because in the previous video I made, I did cover a lot of the basics. And I feel like a lot of what I spoke about still is relevant today, although there has been some changes. And my experience living here has also changed as well. So, first of all, let's talk about the fact that more and more people are moving here. I think that's fairly obvious. For people who don't live here, I'm sure they've probably seen news reports or videos, pictures made on social media about how many people, how many wealthy people are moving to the UAE. And people like me who've been living here have certainly noticed that there's more people living in the city, and this can bring about some benefits and some potential downsides. And I think probably one of the biggest downsides is you just trying to cram in more people into the city. And of course, it just feels a little bit busier than it used to. The traffic, yes, I think I touched upon it in the previous video, but it's definitely more of an issue now. Getting around the city is a pain in the ass, to the point where I actually will time during the day when I'm on the roads and when I'm off the roads. Throughout the day, I will drive around and do the things which I need to do. But after a certain point, usually after 4 p.m., I don't really like to go anywhere. I just like to get back home and just chill. And if I do need to be downtown or anywhere in the city, I'll often just get a driver to drive me there, because I have no patience driving on the road anymore. It's just actually taking up quite a bit of my time. Now, is it always going to be like this? I don't think so. Dubai seems to have this amazing capability of fixing problems. Anytime there is an issue or things which isn't working efficiently, they do their best to try and solve it. And there is talk about flying taxis being introduced this year, 2026. So I'm intrigued as to how that is going to pan out and how many people are going to have access to it. And will it get to the point where we look up and there's literally just flying taxis and drones all over the place? Or is it going to be different to that? I don't know yet. I guess we'll just have to see. But what I would love, I don't know why they haven't done this already. There's probably a very good reason why they haven't, but I feel like the best thing for Dubai and public transport would be some sort of underground system, because it's out of sight, out of mind, and you're just moving huge amounts of people around the city out of view, right? For example, Tokyo probably does the best job of any city at moving its huge population around underground. But I don't know how, if Dubai has the capability to do that. Maybe the bedrock isn't suitable for that. One thing which I've noticed, which I guess is just inevitable whenever more people move to a city, that is the cost of living in terms of buying and renting a property has definitely gone up quite a bit. I'm actually kicking myself as to why I did not buy any property when I first moved here. But of course, I didn't really have any intention of being here long term. So, who would have known? But if I'd done that, bought some Bitcoin, your boy would have been laughing all the way to the bank and swimming in dirhams, that's for sure. But anyway, it's not necessarily universal throughout the whole of Dubai, right? There are some spots which tend to be just premium real estate, and then other spots which aren't really as premium. So if you're talking about luxury property, which are in very high demand because a lot of wealthy people moving here, and of course, beachfront, waterfront property, there's a limited amount of beachfront, there's a limited amount of waterfront. So, of course, the demand for those types of properties and apartments are very, very high. So, yeah, that's one issue. But one thing to keep in mind, one thing I've noticed, and if you are thinking of buying a property, don't expect to have a guaranteed skyline and view, because they are constantly building new towers all over the place. And even when I moved into this spot, where I am right now, 2021, they've already built a tower right next to me, which I'm looking at right now, which wasn't there beforehand. And then behind me, I had a view of the Burj Al Arab. That's gone because they built another tower in front of that. So fortunately, I have a view here of the water, which I think it's literally impossible to build in front of that. But I wouldn't put it past them to maybe reclaim a bit of the land and put something else up in front of it. Like Dubai is a place where they will do something like that. So be cautious about where you're buying and what your view is going to be. Of course, I mentioned in the previous video about how extremely convenient things are just living here. Like it actually gets to the point, and has done, where each year I progressively get more and more lazy, where whenever I want things done, there is always somebody here to just get it done, right? I don't really have to be wasting my time doing things where I don't or should not really be doing them. And this is always highlighted whenever I'm traveling around the world to different countries, different cities. I always notice that things don't seem to be done as efficiently, and things tend to be more inconvenient to the point where it can sometimes get annoying. And whenever I come back to Dubai, I'm like looking forward to getting back to a place which is extremely convenient. Here, for example, the things which I love, everything tends to be open until very late. Okay, so if it's late in the evening and I want to get something from the shops, or I want to get some food from a decent restaurant, it's open, which is great. I can actually walk down the street at 1 or 2 in the morning in my area and everything is open and there's people everywhere. So that's pretty cool. It's not like in other places where at a certain time, like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, everything is shut. There's literally nothing to do. So you just have to go home. It's very much the opposite here. In fact, you could argue that at night, the city comes alive, and it's a very big part of the culture. They have a big nighttime culture here. So that's pretty cool. And also, for example, when I go to places in Europe, on a Sunday, it's like, oh, that's the day when everything is closed. Like, I get it. The owners of the shops or whatever like to have their day off. But for me, whenever I go to those places and I just can't do the normal things which I like to do, it's just annoying. So they don't really tend to have that here, where there's like, oh, there's a day in the week where everything's closed. No, there's every day is the same. Every day, everything's open and things are open till late. So that's something which I massively appreciate about this place. The safety, of course, again, is unmatched. And I do wonder, how are they able to do that? How are they able to maintain such high levels of safety when, particularly in Dubai, there's definitely people that come here and maybe live here that are not how do I say this? Not the best behaved in other countries. Yet when everybody comes here, they are on their best behavior. And it's amazing how they've been able to enforce that. And other countries could definitely take note. Maybe it's because there is a fear of the police and of the actual punishment that comes from committing a crime. Because I feel particularly like when I was living in the UK, there wasn't really any respect or fear of the police. And if you ever got arrested or locked up, it would always seem to be temporary and people weren't really effectively punished for the crimes that they committed. Whatever they're doing here, it seems to be working extremely well. And it does make me think a lot, because I see a lot of stuff in the news about my home country, United Kingdom, how apparently immigration is a big part of all the problems that the UK is facing at the moment. And I'm thinking, hang on, right now I'm living in a place which is rife with immigration. In fact, Dubai is literally built upon immigration and loads of people moving here. So why does it work here and why does it not work in other places? And then I thought about the people, the type of people that are immigrating here. People that come here are not coming here to be looked after and to be given things. It doesn't work here. In fact, in Dubai, it's illegal to beg and it's illegal to be homeless. Now, as harsh as that sounds, I actually like it, because when I was living in London, I was paying a lot of money to live in a nice area, Kensington. And yet, even though I was living in a nice area of London, whenever I was walking around, there was homeless people everywhere and I didn't feel safe. And it was annoying, people constantly asking me for money. So a lot of the people who are coming here, they're not expecting anything. They're not expecting to be looked after. I can't come here and be like, hey, um, I don't have any money, uh, ruler of Dubai, but could you please put me up in a nice house and put me on benefits, please? Because, that'd be nice. They're not going to do that, and they don't do that. So if you come here and you can't make something of yourself and you can't pay for yourself, then you are going to leave. There's not even any choice to be homeless on the streets because it's illegal, so you'll get deported. So everybody coming here seems to be capable of earning money. They seem to be very driven to make money, make something of themselves, or they have either made loads of money and have money and just want to come and live here and have a good life. That seems to be how a lot of people who move here tend to just live harmoniously with one another. And on top of that, speaking of people living harmoniously, lots of different religions are generally welcomed here, which is maybe it's quite surprising for some people. I mean, this is very much a Muslim country, but they're not shoving Islam down everyone's throats and trying to convert people. They're very open to, other cultures and religions also doing their thing here, as long as they're not radical and trying to convert everyone. You do your thing, you worship who you want to worship, but do do it in your own place. So whatever they've done it amazingly because I never see any arguments on the street, any violence. Everybody's just living together and it's all good. It's pretty amazing because there's not many places I've been to where I see that. Now, moving on to residencies, setting up a business. I mean, it's a great spot for sure to come and set up a business. Now, although a lot of people tend to think, oh, well, Dubai is tax free. So, yeah, let me go to Dubai. Dubai is not tax free, right? Wake up call for everybody watching this. It is not completely tax free. If you wanted to go somewhere to get the best tax benefits for yourself, Dubai, the UAE, is not at the top of the list. There's a lot of other places that you could potentially go to, which will maybe be more favorable in terms of you saving more of your money. So, if you've got a load of money and you want to keep as much as possible of it, do a bit more research because Dubai might not be the best spot. I'm pretty confident that they wouldn't introduce more taxes anytime soon or any kind of income tax. I think it would be a big gamble for them to do so because they might have neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia. They'll be like, hey guys, we're not going to offer any taxes at all. So if you're fed up of Dubai charging you for all these taxes, then come live here, Habibi. And that is something that I could potentially do if that happened. But only time will tell. Speaking of taxes, make sure you're on top of them. If you come here, you set up a business, make sure that you got your accounts in order because they will come and find you and fine you. So my accountants, Capture Accounting, have been looking after me for the past couple of years. In fact, they were looking after me when I was living in the UK, but they've opened their new services here where they help to look after primarily expats from the UK to get on top of their accounts. So if you want to check them out, link in the description, highly recommend. In terms of opening a business and getting a residency, that's fairly straightforward. Of course, we need to clarify that there is a difference between becoming a resident and becoming a citizen. Unfortunately, it's still extremely difficult to become a citizen of the UAE and get a passport. That is only going to happen if you're a very special individual or you have contributed significantly to the UAE, right? The only people that I know of that actually have been granted citizenship is the Telegram founder, Pavel Durov, and I think Kevin O'Leary. So, yeah, lucky you if you've been gifted one of them. But, I'm not complaining. I understand why they're doing that. I don't think it'd make sense for them to start handing out citizenships to everyone. It's better for them to keep it exclusive. A couple of things which you need to know if you are going to set up a business here or open a bank account, you need to become a resident first. But that, as I mentioned, is very straightforward. The company which I used for that and are still using today is the Trade License Zone. All you have to do is literally just get in touch with them and be like, hey, I want to become a resident, or hey, I want to set up a business. Really straightforward. I think one of the most challenging things for an individual here is to try and keep up with all the rules and the regulations of businesses and visa allocations and the taxes, right? That is, you'll spend your whole time trying to keep up with that. So it's better that you get experienced professionals to take care of that for you. As I mentioned, my accountants do a great job of that. And the trade license zone, for me, they've been amazing, right? For setting up the business and then for also getting more people on my business and making sure their visas are looked after and they're taken control of and so on. So everything is out of sight, out of mind. I've got peace knowing that it's all been handled. So if you want to set up your residency or if you want to set up a business, check out the Trade License Zone. Now, moving on to some negative aspects of Dubai. Again, there's nothing really so bad about it that it makes me not enjoy being here, right? If I didn't like Dubai, I would just leave. Okay, I clearly like it a lot because I'm still here and I do plan to stay here for a lot longer. I've noticed that a lot of the online criticism and negativity surrounding Dubai tends to come from usually two main categories of people. The first category is the people who have never been to Dubai. So these are people who are just observing Dubai through the lens of influencers or content creators that have created content about Dubai. And usually, if you make negative content about Dubai, it tends to perform quite well. So that gives people an incentive to do it. So there's that. And then there tends to be people who, those same people who, they either just have decided, I will never go to Dubai. Like, I am against it. I will never go there. So I will continue to trash talk about it. Or there's the people who just can't afford to go there, right? So the people that can't afford to go to Dubai or they're unable to for whatever reason, they'll usually just trash talk it. And then there are those people that have been here, they've either lived here or they've been here on a vacation for a temporary period of time and they just had a bad experience. And maybe their bad experience is justified, all right? And it is what it is. You know, I have gone to a lot of places and had a bad experience. There are going to be people who just don't necessarily find this place to be good for their soul or just good for them and what they want out of life, which is fine. And to be honest, you know, when people are thinking about coming to Dubai, I say, yeah, sure, come check it out. Maybe live here for a bit, but don't think it's going to be the perfect place for you. In fact, I'm 35 years old. I've traveled to a lot of places, and I don't think there is the perfect place. I don't think it exists. I think certain places around the world have a lot of really amazing, beautiful things about them, particularly, you know, places which are so beautiful in terms of the nature. That's great. But if I was to go live in a very quiet, peaceful, quaint, yet beautiful little village, I will be so bored. Like, I would not want to live in a quiet, peaceful place. Well, I'm not at this point in my life. So, you know, there's pros and cons of different places that you choose to live. I think here they're definitely trying to make it ugh, more nature encompassing. They're trying to plant more trees. They're trying to, you know, offer that. Of course, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to do it because it's a frigging desert. Like, how much nature can you offer to people when it is literally a desert? Air quality is also probably one of the biggest issues for me and maybe a lot of other residents that live here. Now, this tends to be an issue in the summer months. I think in the winter, particularly today, air quality is good. The sky is very blue. Visibility is generally very good. Yet, there may be random days in the winter, and usually it's very consistent in the summer where the air quality is just not good. Like you can tell when the air quality is not good because the sky is like kind of just this gray, hazy sky, but there's no clouds. It's a clear sky, but it's hazy. The visibility is very poor. I would usually look out to the horizon. I can see the Royal Atlantis and the normal Atlantis on a day like today in very fine detail. Yet on certain days, I won't even be able to see it. And that's when I think to myself, okay, the air quality is not good today. I will usually check IQ Air to see what it's doing. And on certain days when the air quality is bad, I really question what it is that I am breathing into my lungs and how much of an effect it is having on my health, particularly if I'm consistently breathing in this air on a regular basis. Now, I'm trying to figure out what it is. I've been doing a bit of research because it's not as if they're ramping up industrial processes, in the industrial areas, or there's more cars on the road. It's due to something else. I think particularly when it becomes more humid and it gets a lot hotter, that seems to trap the pollution. And then, of course, because it's so dry and there's just desert surrounding this place, if there's wind coming from the desert, it's just going to bring a load of the sand particles and dust from those areas and bring it into the city, which is obviously not very good to breathe. So I have an air purifier, which I have working at absolute full capacity during the summer months. And speaking of summer months, what I used to do, first 3 years of living here, I would usually dip for the whole summer. But now I don't know if it's because I just love living in Dubai so much. I just generally don't like to leave Dubai for too long, right? Whenever I'm away for more than a couple of weeks or a month, I really do miss Dubai. So during the summer months, I've spent a lot more time here, and I've noticed that a lot of other people tend to do that as well. Because in the first few years I was here, I would notice that during the summer it would be a lot quieter, like everything would be dead. Whereas now, a lot more people tend to just stay. And, this is one of the places where it's very accustomed to making things as comfortable as possible for those people that are living here during the summer months. In fact, now I've noticed when I go to Europe, like the summers in Europe are getting hotter and hotter to the point where I'm like, it feels like I'm in Dubai right now. But they are not able to make things comfortable for everybody, right? There's a lot of places in Europe that don't have air conditioning. A lot of the restaurants or cafes don't have air conditioning. Like everything's outdoors, so there's no escaping it. July and August in Europe can feel brutal sometimes. It's actually got to the point where there's some places in Europe I don't want to go to because the heat is that extreme now. I'm actually looking for alternative places to go to. Speaking of weather, cloud seeding is worth mentioning. So I think after making the original video, there was the notorious day of rainfall where there was like 3 back-to-back storms, which completely brought the city to a halt. There was flooding everywhere. Now, I'm not really surprised there was flooding because of the amount of rain that fell in such a short period of time. It was one of the worst storms that the area had received in over 75 years. So it was definitely a one-off, and it definitely wasn't man-made. There's loads of talks and posts going around after that event that were claiming that that was a result of man-made tampering and cloud seeding, which is just not the case. Like cloud seeding does not have the capability to create ginormous regional storms that are affecting huge areas of land. So that was just a freak cause of nature. Definitely wasn't man-made. But they certainly need to improve the drainage systems here, that's for sure. It does only rain once or twice a year, at most. So it's not like it's a regular thing that I have to deal with or residents have to deal with. One thing that's also worth mentioning is that this place is designed to stimulate and entertain people. Probably one of the most stimulating places that I've ever been to. Now, this can be great if you're the type of person that likes to just go out and about, do loads of things. But it can be an issue, first of all, when it comes to just staying focused and concentrating on the thing which you need to do. Okay, if you are a business owner, you're a go-getter, you're ambitious, you want to get things done, When you make more money, you become more successful, you get more status. You often find there's a lot of people who want you and your attention, and you're like, hey, come to this business dinner, or come to this networking event, or come to this night out, like whatever it might be. I've noticed that it becomes increasingly more important to say no if you want to continue to get shit done. Now, the first few years when I was living here, I would say yes to a lot more. And I've noticed now I'm saying no to a lot more, mostly because there's a lot of things which I've already done. I don't have this feeling of FOMO that I used to have. Maybe I'm getting older, or maybe I'm just bored of doing the same things over again. So there's that. And then it is going to be testing for those people who don't have that discipline, because it's very easy to come here and lose track of what it is that you're supposed to be doing and spend a lot of your hard earned money. A lot of people ask me about, what is it more expensive living here in comparison to other places? I would say being here, it's definitely easier to spend your money. Okay. You could go have a nice breakfast, go to a beach club. You're paying for a plus one usually. So you're paying for the access to the beach club, you're paying for the food, for the drinks. You might go off and you do something else. Maybe you're getting Ubers around everywhere, and then going to a fancy dinner. Like, it's very easy to spend over £1,000 every day if you're kind of living that lifestyle and you're out and about and you're doing things. I tend to not really do that as much anymore. I like my nice routine. I'm spending a lot of time at home. I'm doing work. I'm going to the gym. I'm going on public beaches. That makes me happy. So I find that I'm not really spending as much as I used to. And, that's absolutely fine. But of course, it just depends on the type of person you are and how disciplined you are when it comes to your money. I've also thought about this. When people ask me about my experience living in Dubai, I have obviously a very particular experience, which it's not going to be shared by everybody. So I came here, I had money. I've obviously made more money since I've been here. I live in a great apartment on the beach, and generally, making friends and finding partners and whatever hasn't really been a problem because of social status, social media, and so on. So, of course, I have a very good experience of Dubai. Would this experience of Dubai be different if I didn't know anybody and I didn't have any money? Of course. I think probably the most difficult thing would be to live here on a budget. It can be done, but I think the problem would be the comparison. The saying, comparison is the thief of joy. If you were to compare yourself to other people here, you're probably going to feel the poorest person living in the city. I mean, even for me, I'm doing okay, but I feel pretty poor compared to a lot of the things I see and a lot of the other wealthy people who have decided to live here. So you have to really not get too caught up in comparing yourself to other people and what other people have. Because regardless of how many things that you might be able to acquire, there's going to be a lot of people that live here that have more than you. You are not going to win, friend. So that's something you need to be aware of. Don't compare yourself to others, particularly here, because you're going to be miserable. Moving on to relationships and friendships. This is, again, probably one of the most frequent things I get asked about dating in Dubai and friendships. Now, let's start with friendships first of all. There's definitely lots of potential friends that you can make here. For a man, for sure, because usually you've come here to make something of yourself, and there's loads of other guys who are also here to make something of themselves. It's a surrounding environment of ambitious, young, hardworking guys who have usually lived in a different place and moved here. So everybody's in a kind of similar boat where they're looking to make friends and they're looking to succeed in life, which is great. And I usually find that everybody's here is very open to helping each other out. And there tends to be not really the same level of jealousy that you would experience in your home country. So that's fantastic. The only downside of making friends is sometimes I feel it could potentially be quite transactional. Guys are maybe looking to make friends with the guys that have something they can benefit from or take from sometimes. And it tends to be quite a temporary thing because a lot of people are coming in and out. It's very seasonal. Usually people would be here just for the season, or people are maybe here just for a couple of years and they're going to go relocate somewhere else. So to find friends that are here a lot of the time and are going to be based here for a very long period of time can sometimes be quite difficult. But generally speaking, I have not found it hard to make friends here. If anything, it's a case where I've just had to say no to lots of invitations and potential friendships that could be formed because I just don't have time to make friends with everybody, unfortunately. So the dating scene, I think it's great. I think there is a huge selection of beautiful women here from different nationalities who are they are looking for a relationship at the end of the day, looking to get married. I think the problem isn't necessarily Dubai, but just modern dating as a whole, and obviously the effect that social media has had on the dating scene. When I first moved here, I was very naive to everything, to be honest. Now I've experienced a lot, I've seen a lot. It's got to the point where I can see the difference between somebody who you would maybe just have a bit of fun with, don't get too involved with that person, and then somebody else where it's like, okay, this is literally wifey material. Like, this is something you should take seriously. But if there's a particular type of woman that you want, they may be here, but you just gotta, do a little digging and do a little searching to meet them. One thing which is quite frustrating, though, I have noticed that sometimes the longer that a woman has been here for, there tends to be this Dubai corruption that they experience, whereby there is this higher and higher and higher and higher standard of what they're accustomed to as to what they should be gifted, what lifestyle they should have, what the man should, you know, tick off in terms of how much money they make and so on. They tend to lose their softness and good-hearted nature, um, which I have experienced before, actually. So, yeah, a lot to say. Another video which I can make, but as good as the dating scene can be, it's extremely competitive. I will tell you that. And you have to be on top of your game to improve your chances of basically having a better experience when it comes to dating. Moving swiftly on, we will talk a little bit about family and kids now. Unfortunately, I can't really say too much about that. I'm experiencing Dubai as a single man with no responsibilities. To be honest, the only responsibilities I have is just my staff and making sure they're paid and looked after. So, will my experience of this place change when I have a family? Of course it will. Will I want to relocate if I have a family? Well, I think I would probably want to go somewhere a little bit quieter. I'd probably get a villa. I'd want more space, a little bit more peace. Don't think I would want to be living in an apartment anymore, but for now, it's great. So there's that to think about, and then of course, how I got to think about things like how are my kids going to be raised here? I think there's obviously the huge advantage of assistance, getting nannies, maids, very cheap, very reliable, very safe, which is great. So I think raising kids and babies in particular is a lot easier in comparison to other places where the accessibility or affordability of having nannies is a little bit more difficult. And of course, you need to think about things like education and paying for schooling, because schooling is not free here. You've got to pay, put your kids in school. And if you want them to go to the best school, it's going to cost you money. So to be honest, I'm at a point right now where I'm really just focusing on my business and my career to just make as much money as I can, not so I can spend it on stupid things, but just so I can ensure that my family get all the things that they deserve, and I can continue to live my lifestyle, whilst having another two, three, four people that I need to take care of. So I'll have to make another video on family stuff once I actually have a family. So you've got that to look forward to, inshallah. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of all the updates I have for you after my 6 years of living here. The city is ever changing, ever growing, and I think particularly over the next 10 years, there will be some major changes. Of course, there's been the announcement of the new airport opening. So this is massively going to shift where a lot of the traffic and even maybe where the center of the city actually is. I think if you look at it on a map now, the city is going to start moving downwards. They've obviously re-announced that the new Palm Jebel Ali is now officially open. In fact, they're now building on it. So this Palm apparently is like twice the size of Palm Jumeirah. So with that being fully operational, the new airport being fully operational, you're going to see a lot of the city's activities move southwards. And to be honest, I think this is quite welcome because at the moment, around the downtown area and the airport, there's too much going on, and there's too many people trying to move around. The traffic is crazy. So hopefully, with the city expanding and moving southwards, I think it should hopefully ease things up a little bit and just make things a little bit more decentralized. So that will be interesting. And speaking of new airport and airlines, Emirates, I've got to give a shout out to Emirates. One of the benefits of living here is obviously having them as the main airline. The service is always top notch, very rarely delays. When you're in a position where you can pay for business class flights, like you really feel like you have access to everywhere in the world and it's really not that inconvenient to get there. You know, in the past, last year, I went to America 3 times. I could get a direct flight to New York, to Miami, to Houston, to LA, and flying with Emirates was absolutely fantastic. And then every day, every week, I feel like they're announcing new locations that will fly from Dubai with Emirates. So that's one of the best things about living here is you can literally get to anywhere you want to get to. It's very accessible. And in terms of everything else they're trying to do with the future, you know, it seems to be, if you just look at what they have planned, it's actually pretty wild, particularly if they stick to what they're planning to do. You know, they're making this huge indoor loop around the city where it's air conditioned so you can walk and you can cycle through this loop, which would be very cool. Like if I could have the opportunity to cycle to downtown on a bike, indoors, air conditioned, that would be amazing. Apparently, they're trying to do something with Elon Musk and the Hyperloop, so that will be interesting to see what happens there. They're trying to do this huge artificial reef off the coast, so it's definitely an exciting place to live, and I'm very much looking forward to what the place has to offer because I feel like every year they just keep making improvements and reinvesting into the city to make it a more enjoyable and livable place for its residents. So I'm actually just hoping too many people don't come too quickly because that's when there's going to be a strain on the infrastructure and maybe some other things as well. So maybe guys don't come here, or if you're going to come here, maybe come in like 10 years or something. But I'm only kidding. Great place to live. Certainly a great place to live, even if it's just temporary. I have a whole lot to owe to the UAE and Dubai in particular for, I don't know, just welcoming me here and allowing me to operate my business and progress with my business and actually keep the money which I've worked so hard to earn. I think that's been absolutely amazing. It's a very, very welcoming place, that's for sure. And I love the fact that I can just make the most of my life and have a very good quality of life living in a place like this. So thank you for letting me live here. Appreciate it a lot. And hopefully for you guys, this has been a useful video. I know a lot of people who I've met in the streets have come up to me and they say, "Hey, I watched your video in Dubai and you're one of the reasons why I moved here." And I'm like, wow, okay. That's nice to know. So that's cool. Anybody, if you are thinking about relocating from wherever you live right now, Dubai could be a great option, but I definitely wouldn't just go to Dubai because everybody's going to Dubai. Don't be a sheep. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Try new places and get a feel for what they're like. Okay, because as I said, this place is not for everybody. So don't think just because everybody's going there, you're going to, have the best time. It might not be for you. It might be worth you checking out other places. So do what's best for you, what you value in life, and obviously what is going to be the most practical and efficient for your business and for, saving as much as your money as you possibly can do. So thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Or maybe see you in 3 years' time when I do my 9-year review.